You ready, Chris?
You ready, Ben?
Let's get it.
Man, let's get it, man. Welcome to the Follow Then Lead podcast.
Welcome to the Follow Then Lead podcast. We are here with our wonderful team, Stacy Chwangem, Isaiah Baines, myself, Benjamin Baines, and we have a special guest here.
We have Chay Glasgow joining us today, and we're so excited.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Born Boston, Massachusetts, my whole life. Been here. You know, my parents are from St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay.
So,
Caribbean.
Very nice place. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can tell by the hair.
For sure.
Yeah. I got the curly hair. Got it from my mom. My mom has, like...
Her curly
Oh,
hair
yeah,
is
they're like-
immaculate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good hair.
Oh, yeah.
I went there in 2017. That's when I saw my grandma for the first time.
Okay.
And it was really cool, you know, seeing just a different culture, seeing how they live, opposed to how I live up here. You know, put a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah.
You know, made me really think about, like, be more appreciative, you know, because, like, my cousins down there, they have this idea of, like, the American dream. And, you know, every time, I think it's anyone who goes to the Caribbean, you go down there and they're like, oh, yeah, you're rich because you live in America.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't even know. It's just, no, this is just Doritos from the corner store. This ain't nothing. This ain't nothing crazy. No, but it was really nice going back down there. So, yeah. Boston, Massachusetts, my whole life, you know, and it's a really nice place. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Jamaica once. And for me to walk onto a land that was black
Yeah.
was like, it was phenomenal. And it wasn't that I was thinking that it was black. I I never thought that I was black. You know what I mean? And then I realized, like, oh, wow, like, this is an amazing feeling to just be around people that look like me. Even if I'm not from here, they treated me like I was family.
Yeah.
And so I treat people like their family anyway, so it felt like home, you know? And so that was an amazing experience coming from, you know, New England versus going to, you know, the Caribbean. So I don't know if that was a similar feeling for you.
For me, I was a lot younger, so
Okay.
that wasn't really the mindset I had.
Okay.
But, you know, seeing, like, I haven't seen my brother in, like, a long time. You know, I have a brother that's down there. And, like, seeing my grandma for the first time, never seen him before. And just walking around there and, just walking around there and just seeing, you know, people, like you said, people who look just like you. And, you know, up here, people always, like, say, hey, you look like you're from Cape Verde, or you look like you're from this place. And it's like, no, I'm not. But going down there and seeing people, like, seeing all my cousins and stuff, it was really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do agree. I do echo that same sentiment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah.
I like it.
How's everybody doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing good today.
Yeah? What does good mean?
I woke up at 8, went to bed. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. So
I'm not
life is
tired.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good way to look at it.
Right.
Well, you, Stacy.
Hanging in there. It's
Yeah.
been a interesting 48 hours, but I'm grateful. So, yeah, hanging in there.
Okay.
How are you?
Nice.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Everything's going well. There's a lot going on in life. But, I'm just, like you said, grateful. Like every day, just there's a grateful mindset in our heart that, you know, no matter what happens, I think I talk to people a lot, and, like, I say life is good. I feel like that's, like, my theme, you know, this year or this period that I'm in life. And people are like, how can you say life is good when X amount is going on in the world? This is happening, that's happening. Well, this is happening in someone else's life. It's like, well, I'm not saying that everything that happens in life is good.
Right.
I'm saying the fact that life is, that's good. Right? The fact that I'm alive and well, that's good. The ups and downs and the trials and that's a part of life, and we all have to go through it, but life can still be good ultimately. And so that's the mindset. It's not like a super positive mindset. It's just reality that, okay, life can be good outside of what we go through. So anyway, that's
good.
where I'm at.
I like that. That was great.
You know, when you go to a poetry slam, they start snapping.
Oh, I got, like, completely challenged at work, and we going back and forth with this girl. She was completely like, I don't like that mindset at all. I was like, okay, well, you got a lot of stuff that you need to work on. You know, I didn't say it to her.
Right.
in
But
my
it's
head,
like,
you know. Yeah, it's reality. If you can't get over, so okay, you still have to work through where you're at, and that's okay. I don't judge nobody. I've been there. Been to the bottom, so I can. All right.
That's true.
So Chay,
Yes.
Glasgow.
Yep.
So what was your childhood like? Can you give us a background of who you are and where you're from?
This is gonna be a crazy story.
All right.
All right.
Buckle up.
Crazy story.
Right?
My childhood was very interesting, I would say the least. My early adolescence, I was very sick. I was born with 56 allergies. So, yeah, let's just take that in. That's a large number. So, you know, the doctors would call me like that boy in the bubble. You know, he couldn't go outside. He couldn't see nothing because, you know, everything was, you know, I don't know all 56. I don't know all 56, but like I know the major ones, the ones that kill me. So I think that's all I need to know. I think that's the important ones. But, you know, I was born with 56 allergies. I was really sick. And, you know, my mom, you know, she was always praying for me, always, you know, just worried. And, you know, I grew up and some of those things, I think they kind of benefited me because some things I stayed away from. So it's like for a long time, I didn't eat like a lot of sweets. I didn't eat a lot of cake. So, you know, some could say it was a blessing. And over the years, I've kind of grown out of those. So it's just kind of like, you know what? I don't really need to eat it anyways. I've just gone so long without eating some stuff. But it was like the major things like eggs and fish and pollen and stuff. So like this time of year is like the worst. Yeah. I don't like spring.
So it still affects you today?
It used to, like my eyes used to itch terribly. Like there was one time I was younger. We went to, I think in like Boston Commons, they have the Swan Ride for like the little kids. I went in there and I had my glasses in my pocket. Glasses fell into the water.
Oh no.
Bro. My eyes like swole up. There's this thing where if you like get your eyes too much, the white part of your eyes can swell over the black part. And I looked like a zombie. It looked really weird.
Really?
So yeah, that was like the worst reaction I've had. But now it's just been like my nose. Like my nose has just been stuffy. But also my nose hasn't worked for 2 years because of COVID. So I don't know. The doctor, they say there's nothing wrong with me, but I can't smell. So what's going on?
Really?
So did you lose your smell?
Yeah, I think that was my symptom. I think that was the first, right when COVID was just starting to go down. I think that's when I got it.
Got it.
But after that, I've been kind of chilling. You know, I've been good.
So
Oh, my bad.
You still can't smell?
Sometimes it goes in and out. Sometimes it's like,
Wow.
all right, I can smell, and it's like, all right, where'd you go? But
Wow.
I'm living. There's a lot of worse things going on in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Aside from my sense of smell.
Right.
So I'm good.
Does it affect taste?
No, thank God.
Oh yeah.
Thank God. I need that.
But you can't enjoy food at all.
Yeah, not at all. Growing up, you know, I've always been raised Seventh-day Adventist. You know, my entire life. Both my parents were born in St. Vincent and Grenadines. They came over, and you know, life was interesting. You know, we didn't have much, but my parents always made sure that my sister and I were, you know, fed and always in the best position to succeed. You know, the amount of gratitude I have for my parents, you know, immense, because, you know, they came here undocumented. My mother got her green card in 2014. So for like 12 years of my life, you know, there's no car, no nothing. You know, my dad, he just got his green card this year.
Wow.
So, you know, the process was going well. And then like when 9/11 happened, that's when everything just kind of shut down. So it took a while for them to get it back. And, you know, when it comes to green card, there's all types of Ponzi schemes and people trying to be like, hey, I can get your green card in 2 days if you.
Right.
Yeah, just give me this, give me $1,700. I got you.
And
It's
then
like,
disappear.
yeah. They're gone. But I would say I'm blessed coming from the birth that I had, like just being so sick. And, you know, the doctors told my mom it'd be a miracle if this kid makes it past 10. And I'm 20 now. So, you know, I could say this for me, it might not work for everyone else, but the way I look back at my life and I see the things that I went through, for me to not believe that there isn't a God, I would be crazy. because it's like so many things have happened that have allowed me to be where I am right now.
Mm.
You know, like my favorite Bible verse is, my favorite Bible character is David, because, you know, he talks about him being a man after God's own heart. I think that's like the coolest, the dopest thing. It's like he messed up so many times. He did all these things, but God's still like, man, I still mess with you. Like, you're really him. So, yeah, I can't.
He said, I'm him.
Yeah, he said, I'm him. So it's like, I can't look back and be like, you know what, you weren't there.
Yeah.
And that's usually the lens that we have. You know, it's like, you know, where were you at, you know, when this was going down? And then you realize, all right, I probably didn't even need those things to begin with. You know, you were there throughout every journey. So early childhood, you know, me and my sister, we moved schools a lot. You know, it was kind of challenging, you know, looking back in like teenage years. You just kind of, you know, look around and you're like, all right, well, we didn't really have much. So, you know, but going back to St. Vincent, like I said, it was a huge culture shock, because you see people happier,
right,
and they have less than me.
Yeah.
And I'm over here thinking that I have nothing. So you come back to the States and you're like I couldn't believe when I woke up in my bed for the first time coming back, because we were down there for like a month and 3 weeks.
Oh wow.
So when I woke up in my bed, I was like, no, I'm not really in Boston, am I? Like, it was so surreal. You know, everyone's just chilling down there. Like, literally, life is just good. I will say I had the best roti I've ever had in my life.
I believe that.
No,
I believe that.
Roti is one of my favorite meals
Man,
in general.
I had
so
the
good.
best roti I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you like it bust up shot or just like a roti?
I don't know the difference, but
I mean, they just chop it up
Right in front
and
of
then
you,
eat
right?
it with your hands instead of a burrito.
I'll take both. I'll take the burrito and I'll take both. It was so good. It was so good. Best I've ever had.
Man, roti is phenomenal. For
Isn't
anyone
it?
that's
Yeah.
listening,
Man.
get you a roti.
Bro.
It's so good. So
You're living
good.
life.
I love me a good roti.
Especially you get curry goat in there.
Man.
Goat's phenomenal.
Hello. When it's made right,
Oh, I mean,
it gotta
yeah,
be
it's
made
gotta be made
immaculate. Okay.
But curry goat,
Curry
something
goat.
about it.
Yeah, it hits different.
Even the stuff I wouldn't usually eat, like cabbage. You put the cabbage in there. You get the chickpeas in there.
Oh yeah, that whole
The
mess.
gravy.
Oh.
The
What's the-
rice.
what's the
Oh, my
mango?
goodness.
I'm hungry.
Chutney, mango chutney.
Whew.
Oh, give me a tub of just mango chutney.
I love it.
That's awesome.
That's good. So what are some things, you said that you didn't necessarily have all the things that the kids had, whatever
Yeah.
may have you, but that you're very grateful for your parents. And so what are some things, positive and negative things, that you learned from your parents growing up?
I would say the positive things is my dad is very, you could say, persistent.
Mm.
You know, he didn't have much, but every day he was getting up because he had a goal in mind. He was like, all right, I got a family. I gotta provide. I gotta support the children, make sure that they go to school, make sure they have, not everything, but, make sure that, they're set. Even times when he was rocking like the same shirt for like a year, it didn't have like probably the same 3 shirts on rotation, but he was making sure that me and my sister were in the best situation possible. So, looking back and seeing how much they had to sacrifice for themselves, as, getting into the adult world, now that I'm 20, I'm starting to see, it's starting to move a different way. And you see like, all right, you can get caught up really quickly if you don't have your stuff down packed, especially, I'm black. So it's like, bro, you got to get your stuff on, like, make sure at a young age, about, like your credit score, and make sure you have those things, set, because you don't want to get caught up. So seeing how my parents moved and seeing how, I think the best thing you could do is learn from your parents' mistakes, because you don't want to replicate, you want to make sure that your life goes, and it's easier said than done, because sometimes, you fall into temptations, you fall into traps, but seeing how they moved, it allowed me to move in a different way. And with their aid, because they're the ones that messed up, they're like, all right, this is where you could have gone differently, so this is where you can do differently. And I think the best thing they've done for me is that they've been very, they've both been there. My dad has a very Caribbean way of like his mindset. when I was younger, it was like, all right, I just bring in the food, I provide, and, the wife takes care of the children. But as I've grown up, and, it's been a lot of arguments between me and him. But as I've grown up, and, as, he's kind of, and it's on me too, because comes a level of maturity that I needed to grow to a point too. So with that maturity and, me talking to him, and, it's come to a point where he's like, all right, I see that you're at the point where you can understand these things that we're going through. You can understand, stuff that adults have to deal with. As a child, you're over here complaining, and it's like you want to snap fingers and you want stuff to be done for you. But it's like, bro, we don't have that. We have rent, we have a lot of things we have to do, and it's like now you're at the age where you can understand that.
But even if we do have it, don't mean that you should get what you want
all the time, right?
It's true,
absolutely.
So they've been there, and not a lot of people have both parents in the picture. So seeing, the examples from both of them and seeing how they've operated, it's allowed me and my sister to kind of piggyback off of that. So we're not starting from ground zero, We've seen where they've come from, and it's like, all right, now we can leverage that and move up, and then hopefully my children leverage where I go, and then they can move up in the world too. It's about building that generational wealth. That's what we're here to do. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So that's the type of mindset that I think they've instilled in me. And my mother, incredible woman, very strong. My mom, I think she taught me resilience. She's been through a lot, and she has stuck through a lot, and just always building and then looking towards the future. Because I remember there was a situation where there was a huge argument in the house, and everyone else is off in their feelings, separating different ways. And then I'm talking to my mom, and I'm like, all right, so how you feel about the situation? And she's like, well, someone's got to be here to keep the family together. And it's like, I never forgot that. That was something that was really, it was like, man, if we all just went in different ways, then we're shattered. My mom's like, all right, everyone come back. All right, let's figure this out. So she taught me resilience, and there's a myriad of things that they've taught me over the years, and I could go into every word that my brain could find. But some of the negative things, I would say, I wouldn't really call them negative. I would see as like, because we all make mistakes. But I would say there were things that I needed, like as a young man growing up, that, I just kind of had to, over time, you could say either I needed it at the time or I wasn't ready to accept it at the time. Right? So with my dad, he had a very stern way, and it was like, all right, I didn't like that. I didn't like getting beat growing up. I got beat a lot. I didn't like getting beat growing up. I wasn't a fan of that at all.
I don't think any of us were.
Nope.
I was not a fan at all. Caribbean, it's not like just grab a sandal. I got beat with anything they can find.
You bring back trauma.
With the hand. One of the proudest moments of my life was when I grew up and my mom went to hit me and I grabbed the belt. I was like, no,
wow. Yeah, no.
That was a sense of pride for me. I was like, bro, we're not doing this no more. So
I'm here now.
I'm him.
Yeah, I'm him. Sorry, really quick. I was there. I was thinking it was probably like 12, 13, and I had like my growth spurt, and so she had beat me, and I'm like, yo, what are you doing? You're doing nothing to me now. And then she tried it again, and I just kind of was like, stop. Said, oh, you think you're big and bad now? Like, that ain't working. So,
let's try something else.
I'll throw you off the porch.
Oh yeah, she said no matter how tall you get, she said Nani said she always throw you off the porch. She said same thing to me too. So was mom.
But yeah, my bad.
That's because at the time, this was my mindset. It was like, I can comprehend things. So it's like, we can talk this out. We don't need to, just beat me like, bro, it hurts, bro. Like, that's not, well, for me, it wasn't good. And I felt at times that was more so used as like to take out aggression than a disciplinary tactic.
Yep.
So I was never a fan of it. Like, it was never something. And I struggle with that, like, now, thinking about, like, all right, so hopefully not anytime soon because I'm 20, so I'm not trying to be a kid anytime soon. But, like, in the future, how would I move in that regard?
Yeah.
You know, the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. So I don't want my kid running around here a menace to society.
Right.
But I also don't want to, like, inflict, because I know how it felt.
Right.
So I guess just like it took me years to understand where my dad was coming from, I guess going forward, that's going to be the time I need to understand how to take that step.
Yeah, the Bible talks about it, I think, in the New Testament about, you know, any loving father would discipline their son, so does the Father in heaven discipline us.
Yeah.
So I think connecting that to sparing the rod, it's like a balance between correction and abuse, right? Or you releasing your aggression.
Yeah.
And I've learned that, you know, thank God I've had just a dog, but I've also had my nephew for years, and learning, like, to deal with that with him and not, you know, I never really struck him. I would pop him when he was little.
Yeah.
You know, and there was a certain spot I would just flick him in the back of his neck. He hated it. So whatever he was doing, he would stop.
Yeah.
But then I'd never showed aggression. But it was different when I got my dog. Now it's kind of, he's my responsibility. He was never mine responsibility. The dog is mine, and I'm with him all the time.
Yeah.
And whenever he's not doing what I wanted to do, I would feel that aggression coming up and then react. And then I started to realize, like, okay, this isn't beneficial, because now he's more afraid of me
Right.
than he actually is listening and, like, learning from what I want him to do.
Yeah.
So just by having a dog and, like, being at least conscious and aware of my actions, I've been able to work that out, because that was the same reality I had when I was young. It was just more aggression that I was being given. So then consciously or subconsciously, I'm going to do the same until I correct it. So I'm grateful that I've had this experience, just like you, hoping one day when I have children, I would probably have to work that out too, even further, because they're intelligent, communicating, you know, beings that try you and push all your buttons. So you have to consciously continually work through that.
I agree. And I think somewhat it's like, you know, you don't want to be overly, like, too friendly, because one thing I think that's a problem in the country is that parents are trying to be friends with their kids. That's not good.
We're not having that here.
That's not good.
Not your friend.
Not your friend.
I was by Back Bay. I was sitting by the Church of Science out there, and I saw a kid. You know, his mom was telling him to do something, and the kid literally, he said "shush" and then smacked her in the face.
Ain't no way.
No, I birthed you. There's no way. There's absolutely no way.
I don't know if just by walking by,
If
I wouldn't have reacted. And
Like,
no,
did you
what are you doing?
Right.
Just smacked her in the face, and then she was shaking. You know, and the dad was just kind of watching.
The dad was watching?
Yeah, the dad was just kind of watching, and then eventually he said something. But, you know, to me, I was like, bro, I would have died right there if I had that.
Over. After the
I would have got killed right there.
Yeah.
Like, I got beat for less.
Right.
Yeah, much
Right.
less.
Right? And no, I think it could be needed.
It's definitely needed.
There's a fine line in all of it.
It is a line,
Right.
It's Isaiah was talking about it, and I was actually talking about this with my mom. Like, anything that operates in its fullness operates within boundaries.
That's it.
And so the same thing with children in our relationships. A boundary is like in human relationships, boundaries are, and I just learned this, a way to keep you in my life. Right? So these are the boundaries that work for us.
Right.
And you say the same thing for me. I say the same thing to you, and this is what works for us.
Right.
If we don't have those boundaries, we're going to destroy our relationship at some point, somehow, and we're not going to have a friendship, relationship, whatever it is, right? And it's the same thing with children. We create boundaries and discipline, right? Discipline is freedom.
Exactly.
Right? You're able to be free by the discipline that you've set forth for children and also for yourself. You live within freedom because you have boundaries. I like this analogy. I thought about it when I was in Jamaica. Like, there's a vast ocean. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing. One of the most beautiful things on earth is the ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so powerful. It's deep, right? It's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It has all different types of animals and obstacles, whatever. And so for us in life, that's life. The ocean is our life. It's the world. Opportunities, anything you can do, that's the world. Whenever you go to a beach for some sort at like a resort or whatever, they have buoys, right, to keep you within. This is the safest area for you. You can swim on the deep side. You can chill out, relax on the shore. You can sit and enjoy all the beauty that there is to see. You can play. You can have all the fun you want. But as soon as you go past that, that's where it's dangerous and it's on you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And God has communicated that to us, that, okay, there is a vast world that anything you can do. The world talks about it. The word says that all things are lawful, but not everything is good or beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go out there.
You could do it, but
This is what I have for you. And in here is freedom.
Yeah.
But out there is actually kind of dangerous and destruction. So
Yeah.
absolutely, that was a whole word. Mm-hmm.
No, that's deep. You know, a lot of the lessons that my parents taught me, I would say, it kept me out of trouble for a lot of things, you know. And then sometimes when you do overstep those boundaries and you see it's like, all right, now I've created myself. Like, how I felt was, you know, because I messed up and now my parents got to get involved. Now, you know, now they're responsible for something that shouldn't be on their conscience. You know, my mom works hard. You know, my dad works hard. I don't want them to have to go to sleep worrying about me or like problems that I'm creating that I shouldn't be doing. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's true.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are so outside of your parents, do you have 3 people that have been most influential in your life?
I think
Not
And
3 people, whoever. Do you have?
I've spoken about this before. I've been privileged, because not a lot of people have this, but I've been privileged to have really strong male role models around me. Right? There's a lot of, just to hype up Braintree Church real quick, there's a lot of really
It's just
good.
called Braintree Church?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Braintree SDA Church.
SDA, okay.
There's a lot of strong, like, black males in that church. You know, and a lot of them are not shy about, you know, taking people underneath their wing, you know, and just like talking to them and like letting them know, you know, there's, you know, Linville Morton is somebody that I could say for me. I've known him since I was young, you know, and he calls me his little brother. You know, the amount of conversations I've had with this guy, the amount of phone calls I've had with him, you know, Chris Godfrey, you know,
Godfrey.
Oh,
Yes,
It's
sir.
actually my cousin.
crazy.
Yeah, literally.
Yep.
We found that out.
Chris Godfrey, you know, Damon. I don't know if you ever met him.
No, he hasn't met him yet.
Yeah, really cool dude. You know, a lot of these guys, Ice is another one from the church. So a lot of these guys, you know, they sat me down. Ice is the one when I was younger. He always made it a point of emphasis to whenever I saw him, look him in the eye and shake his hand firmly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that was carried for me for a long time. You know, I was incredibly shy as a kid, always looking down, always hiding behind my mom. So one thing they did, which not a lot of people would be comfortable with, but I was okay with it. They were always like, "Hey, you're praying in front of the church today. Hey, you're, you know," they were like, "Hey, you know,
100%.
you're saying the announcements today."
Literally pulling you out of the shell.
Yeah. And it just, you know, it gave me the opportunity to just be like, all right, after some time, like when I was asked to preach for the first time, I was nervous. I was scared. Like I'm up there, I'm thinking about like, how did I get here? I was like, how did I get here? I'm about to go talk just now, and you know, I'll go up there and then, you know, I preach, and you know, you're always your own worst critic. So after the fact of sitting up there, I'm like, damn, I didn't do good. I was like, the sermon was iffy. And then all the people around my age were like, man, I couldn't do the F. I was up there. And, you know, all the adults that were like, hey, you did a great job.
Yeah.
You know, it gave me that confidence. And the second time I went up to preach for Pathfinder Day, it was just like, all right, this is natural. Let's go. You know, we're speaking because they're always throwing me up there and you're talking. You know, sometimes I would just show up to the church. And another one, Dave Bailey. Okay. Dave Bailey from Braintree Church has been a very...
He's a real one.
Yeah,
he's a real one.
Sometimes I would just show up and Dave's like, all right, you're doing the announcements. And it's like, bro, I just...
just walked in.
I just walked in. Put my coat down at least. Like, but I would say that And there's another individual. I don't know if you guys know him, but his name's Milton Samuels. He's someone who has been in my life for a long time since I was young. He's been helping out my parents for a long time. And one thing he told me, he said, church, as much as it's there for you to worship and to celebrate and be there with God, you know, you can learn some of the most fundamental things in life in church. You know, like public speaking. You know, you can learn even in the AV booth. You could go up there and learn, and those are things that translate over to what we're doing here in the podcast. You know, a lot of those things can, you know, and there are people in church that it's like an investment. You know, there's a lot of people in there who have varying skills, especially in Braintree, you know, because I'm in college right now. I'm studying for nursing to become a traveling nurse.
Okay.
There are plenty of people in the healthcare field in Braintree. You know, I also do photography on the side. There are many photographers in Braintree.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of connections. There's a lot of people who, you know, you can really leverage. And, you know, as a youth, you know, there's a lot of kids out here just on their lonely, just trying to going through life by themselves.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Right. What they want.
Yeah.
Who they are. Nothing.
No idea. You know, I remember last week. Was it last week during AY or was it the week before?
I think it was the week before.
The week before.
Yeah. Yeah.
The week before during AY, we were there, and you know, there was someone, one of the girls in the AY program. She had plans of doing nursing as well.
What's AY?
Adventist Youth.
So it's like our youth group.
Yeah. So nursing is such a broad field. You know, you can take it varying different ways, or various different ways. So because of the connections that we had at the church, she was able to speak to somebody who was in the field that she wanted to go to, you know, and able to get that the insight. So
the community.
Yeah, the community, it's really important, you know. It takes a village to raise a child. You know, I'm not going to sit up here and say everything is sunshine and rainbows. You know, over the years, the community feeling has kind of, you know, been in and out at the church. You know, a lot of politics have kind of shown up, and that's life. But at the end of the day, there are always people there, and there are always people who will care for you and want to see your best foot forward. You know, and I think that's something that I would encourage anybody who's young. You know, you don't have to open yourself up to everybody, but it's important to learn discernment and to know who you can trust and cannot trust with certain information, and to make sure that you value the people who are good in your life.
You definitely learn that in the church too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, I think one of the best sermons I've heard was for Pathfinder Day. Pathfinder Day, if it's like the Adventist Boy Scouts.
Okay.
It's a really big organization. So one of the best sermons I heard is a guy who came. He was like, you know what? I learned about adultery in the church. I learned about drugs in the church. I learned about racism in the church. And I think it's good not to have this like rosy lens about what's going on, because, you know, people come to the church and they feel like, oh, they don't want to be judged, and they don't want these negative attributes to be associated with them. But the church isn't for people who are healthy.
Right.
You know, it's for people who not all of us are perfect.
Right. No one is.
You're coming there and you're dealing with humans at the end of the day.
Right.
Yep. So I think that was one of the best sermons I heard. Because, you know, he was even like, man, some of you are over here saying, you know, happy Sabbath, and then you're avoiding the same person you don't want to see, and you're going out this end of the church, and they're going out that end of the church.
I remember that day.
You know, everyone in the church is like, and I'm looking down, and I'm like, I see a couple of you. I see a couple of you who be avoiding people. But it's really, you know, the community you can get there, you know, it's tough. It's tough when you just don't have those people out there. Yeah. But it's an amazing thing. You know, I don't think I would be who I am now if I didn't have those connections, and, you know, especially seeing, you know, just other people who look like me. I think that's an even more important thing. But there are people in the church like Dave Bailey. You know, he's not black, but he's also someone who's like, all right, I'm not looking at this as like, all right, because you're not like me, I can't learn anything from you. It's important to learn stuff from everybody.
Sure.
Everyone can, even someone on the street, they can add some type of value, make you think about something, some type of way you're not even thinking about. So I think that's one of the most important things that I got from the church.
Yeah, that's a great mindset that you have, at just where you are in life. It took me a good amount of years to kind of get there, because I was just, I was one of those that was grounded, and who I was trying to figure out who I was. And in my journey, just kind of went through all these different, avenues to kind of get where I'm at.
Yeah.
But then one of my mentors that I'm grateful to have in my life helped me to see that I actually did have all of the male influences in my life that I didn't think I did. And he was like, once you release that anger, you'll be able to see, reality. And I was able to do that. And so I can name off all the mentors that I've had in my life, that I've been blessed to have, to help guide me. And then now at this point in my life, I can apply all those lessons.
Yeah.
I wish I did earlier, but it's life, you live and you learn. But then you have the ability to, like your parents, communicate that to someone else and say, hey, let's work through this first so you can see the good that you actually have in life. So that's awesome.
Same. Like, for a long time, you just kind of have this lone wolf mentality. And it's like, you're looking around, you're just like, all right, there's no one, no one around me.
Especially like young men.
Yes.
It's in us. It's in there.
You have that, I'm by myself. And for a long time, I felt like I was weak because I had to ask for help. I felt that one of the hardest things for me was being vulnerable. Because, with a level of vulnerability, you're opening or letting people into your world. And I think one thing I had like texted Teddy, and I was like, or Thamon, I was like, hey, let me, I have an issue with this, right? And, another person, because there's so many people, but another person is Ricardo. Ricardo, he responded immediately. He was like, all right, so what is it that you have the problem with? And then Teddy and Chris sent me like this long paragraph about, and that really made me, like, looking at it, it's like, damn, these people really took the time out of their day to make sure that this problem was addressed and to give me a solution to the problem and be like, hey, there's nothing wrong with, opening up to people and letting people see who you are. Your relationships, your friendships, they're all going to suffer if you always have this wall that you got built up.
And that's like the mindset that we as young men have had, because we're looking up to men before us, seeing an image of what manhood looks like, and then now we have to be that. So we think that kind of by living with that wall or that mentality that if I don't have this or I don't do that, or if I do this, then I'm not as much of a man as what I'm looking at. You know what I mean?
It's like an Instagram mindset. Because no one posts what one posts their sad times on Instagram. No one posts when they're really going through anything crazy.
Right. The hard times, the struggles.
So it's like, as a kid, it's like I'm looking at Bron, and it's like, damn, Bron got the championships. Bron over here, he's killing the NBA. But it's like, I don't know what's going on in his home.
Right.
I don't know what's really keeping him up at night. All those things. And, I think culture, because everything is so fast, everything is so quick, it can make a lot of people feel less than. I learned this I think it's a theory in my freshman year of college. It's called the sociological imagination. It's when you feel like you're disconnected from everybody else, but in reality there are so many people who are going through the same thing that you think. And I was man, that was an interesting one.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
But the only way to help that is when you communicate it, right?
You realize there are so many people who are like dealing with the same things. And that's that goes to what you're saying, that complete image you see. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, how do we break this down to a more realistic perspective?
Yeah.
I had a question for you. What is manhood like for you? What do you see in manhood?
You know, in 5 years, that answer might change. In 10 years, that answer might change. You know, over, like, I'm still young. So my perspective on this topic is always evolving. You know, I don't think there's one complete answer. I don't think there's one guy who's like, all right, that is the ultimate man right there. Like he's him. I don't think there's anyone out there. But, you know, you just kind of see from one of the best things that I've heard, and the mom told me. He said he was talking to the pastor at the church at the time, Pastor Brace. And Pastor Brace said, you don't ever want to copy something that's counterfeit. You know, you want to get the authentic thing. So, like I said earlier, with like picking from different things, you know, what works for me isn't going to work for you. What works for me isn't going to work for Stacy.
Right.
So, whatever you see, and it's like, all right, if I want this in my life, that's right. You see the things that are, you know, it's like when you're trying to think of a new idea, and it's like, how do I make, like, this happened to me many a times. It's like, all right, I want this idea. I'm gonna have this business going forward. I look it up on Google, and it's like, oh, someone already has that name for my company that I thought I already had. Someone already had this idea thought of way before. And you kind of see, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, it's 21st century. We can be connected to news instantly. So there's so many ways to not say copy off of other people, but things that are negative are always going to be magnified more than things that are positive. So I think the big thing in my generation right now is that broken relationships are like the thing. You know, cheating is like the thing. And someone who doesn't necessarily want that in their life, how do you go on, or like, how do you mold a relationship going forward when something like that is so the norm? And I guess it comes down to seeing like who in your life has, and I'm not perfect, so my manhood may be, you know, something that's completely toxic. And it's like over some time, it's like, all right, you need to break that down because, you know, this isn't going to work with somebody else. You know, and it might drive someone else away. And I think that's probably one of the worst feelings in the world, is when, you know, you mean good, but because of how you interpreted situations, it drove someone that you cared about away. So, like I said, this is a topic that will be always, you know, in 5 years, my definition of manhood may be different. But my foundation has come from my dad. You know, seeing the way my dad has operated. And this goes back to the earlier topic about negative and positive things. You know, my dad always had the strong, you know, I'm going to provide mindset. But also in my dad, you know, there are things from his childhood that he's never been able to let go of. You know, and to this day, it still kind of like haunts him, and, you know, being comfortable with growing out of that space and being comfortable with letting people into that space. The vulnerability thing, you know, I've seen my dad, and I've only seen my dad ever cry one time. One time in my life. And that didn't make him less than for me. But, you know, it just kind of was like, oh, he's not Superman. This man really, you know, he really feeling, you know, the situation broke him. And, you know, seeing for like how long, you know, 20 years old. Like, I've seen this man, like, I think it happened when I was 18 years of my life. This dude has always been the, you could say, strong arm of the law. You know, it's always just been that dude. And it was like, man, that was something.
It reminds me of like Mufasa and Simba. When Mufasa had to go and save Simba, right, from the hyenas, and then he's talking to him in the field, giving him his little pep talk. And he's like, "Oh, but you're never afraid." He's like, "No, I was today. I almost lost you."
Yeah.
He's like, "I get afraid too." And just having those honest moments with young, your father allowing you to see him cry, and then for you to realize like, oh, well, he's human, like me, and that's gives you that kind of ability to realize that you can be, and it's not this like person that you can never live up to be. You know?
I'm not saying this for like everybody, but the way, like going back to the earlier conversation about like the beating, for that time period, it built up a strong resentment towards my dad. And after some time, it took like, I was like, this dude got no feelings, he over here just beating and not even like think about nothing. But then seeing him like tear up and stuff, it was like, bro, there's levels to this. Like, this isn't so black and white and isn't so straightforward as you think. Like, one of the best things I heard was, there's not any in this world, there's no just genuine evil people out there. There's confused and scared people. And taking like individuals out of this like glorified mindset that you have them in,
it's a joke.
It's crazy. You start thinking people are perfect and there's like they could do no wrong. And over some time, because of how I viewed my dad, and with this like he was so strict and stern, and I do something wrong, that's how I started to view God. Because the father is supposed to be your representation. And people who don't have fathers, if their fathers aren't there, it's like, all right, God's not in the picture either. So for me, it was like, all right, I see how my dad is, and I was like, oh, so I bet you're like that up there. But that's when you got to find out, and you got to have the relationship with the man himself, because people are gonna let you down.
100%.
So you gotta just keep on going on, have that one-to-one connection, because that's the only thing that's really gonna not let you down.
So with all of your life experiences, what you've learned from your father, your mother, going back home to see your family, your extended family, your journey in life to this point, like, who are you?
I don't know if I could fully answer that question. I think at this point, who I am.
What do you understand about who you are?
What do I understand about who I am? It's a loaded question. That's not something I'm on the regular like, hey, who is Shay? Right? I think at this point in life, Shay is somebody who is gonna make mistakes. Shay is somebody who isn't perfect. But I think Shay is also somebody who isn't just gonna stay down when he's beat. I'm always going to get back up. I'm always going to fight. I'm always gonna have to find a way to make it out. So I would say that Shay is somebody who is working his way to be a man after God's own heart.
I love it.
Yeah, that's dope.
That's awesome. Listen, you're real. Listen, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm like, all right, I think you're embodying, without even realizing, how manhood develops, because you're so much more aware of yourself. You're allowing those experiences that you went through to shape how you want to see everything else and how God is asking you to. And not a lot of 20-year-olds can do that. That's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes it takes people who are 50 to do that, right? And the fact that you're in this place is such a privilege and a blessing. And it's such a beautiful space, because God is going to do whatever you allow him to do
Yeah.
in that space. And that's a good thing.
The awareness that I would say he's given me, because some things about me, because I'm not perfect, ignorant, be really ignorant, can be really arrogant. And I think a lot of people my age could be
I think
that
just
type of
people.
Way. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, it's just people.
a lot of I could be really ignorant, really arrogant, and you know, there's been a lot of, you know, angry conversations. There's been a lot of, I've said some outlandish things to the man above, and you know, looking back in hindsight, it's like, damn, if that keeps me out of heaven, then my fault.
I think he would rather you do that than not.
Right. Be honest.
Be honest, yeah.
Yeah. Said some outlandish things. Some things it's like, you heard me say, I'll be like, bro. Like, what?
It wouldn't bother me.
But I think, like you said, the honesty, and, you know, maybe me being afraid with being vulnerable to people has been one thing, but now looking back as of 2 seconds ago after you said that, I can see that I've always been transparent with how I felt with God. And I think that's been probably the best thing for me.
That's
Because
awesome.
your ability to be transparent with him
Yeah.
is a sign that you're able to do it with yourself. And that's the most important thing in becoming who you are.
And I think that's
Is-
allowed me to open up the awareness
Yeah.
that Stacey was talking about, to just kind of see, you know, all right, that's where you went wrong. You know, not really pointing the fingers at anybody else.
Yeah, that's a sign of what? Emotional intelligence, right? That you're able to.
I try my best.
Be able to
Yeah.
gauge. Yeah.
So with, you know, who you are and as you're continuing to learn it, so who do you want to become?
I want to become.
Yeah.
I want to be successful. I want to be
In what? Success can be
Success.
like
Success
for
is
your
very.
family back at home can
Yeah.
mean just having a quality life at home and
I have a lot of passions. You know, I want to be good in a lot of things. You know, I don't think I'll ever reach a point where I would say like one thing is not an option for me. Even though it could be incredibly like far-fetched, you know, for me to say, hey, I'm gonna make the NBA. It's like, you're 5'9", you don't really have a chance. But like thinking, hey, I'll make the league, you know. But you know, a lot of people kind of lose that and just kind of get pigeonholed into like, all right, I'm gonna be this, and if this doesn't fall through, then their whole life is shattered. But you know, I think my mom has told me, it's like, yeah, you think you want to be this, you want to be that, you want to be that. But I don't think I've ever going to lose that childish, like, you know, one day I'm going to be an astronaut, the next day I'm going to be a cowboy. But it's also important to not spread yourself so broad, and that you have all these ideas, but you don't do anything to pursue any of them.
Right.
Yeah. You're just
Because I'm just wasting my time. Yeah, I'm
they
just
say that's
dreaming.
dreaming.
Yeah, I'm just dreaming about all these things. So what I want, I think one of the biggest things one of like the closest things to my heart that I thought about, it first dawned on me when I was playing football in high school. And I was really like, I was putting my all into that. I was like, bro, I wanted to play, because my whole goal was, I was training the whole summer. I'm going to get film. I'm going to send to universities. I'm going to move on. And I was like, I'm going to NFL. Right. So I didn't really have any, like nothing was holding me back. So every practice I was there praying. After practice I was there praying. I was like putting so much into it. And because I wanted to succeed so much in football, I was carrying my academics like through the roof, because I was like, yeah, I need everything to be A1 right now. So second week of practice, when I broke my wrist playing football, 2 helmets. My hand got caught between 2 helmets, snapped my wrist. Right? So when my wrist broke, like my whole
Thing was like, what is
world
happening?
was like, boom. And I think that's the moment when I was like, it's crazy, because there's this ex-college football player named Inky Johnson.
Inky
Johnson.
Yeah, Inky.
I kid you not, 30 minutes before I went to the field, before I broke my wrist, I was watching a motivational thing from him.
Yeah.
Where he was talking about what happens when God says yes and no.
Ooh.
That's tough.
30 minutes before. Can I make this up, people? Can I make this up? 30 minutes before, and he was 9 games away from going to the NFL.
Wow.
And in a meaningless game, he went for a tackle, messed up his right shoulder. He was paralyzed in that arm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 30 minutes before I go to practice, I'm over here listening to this.
He ended up losing part of the arm or something.
He lost
No
all feeling. The whole
way.
thing is shriveled up.
Wow.
And 30 minutes before, I'm just listening to him. I'm like, all right, this is good energy. And, I can give myself pumped. Then I break my wrist.
You're like, wow, okay, here we are.
And then all that motivation, all that stuff just kind of left my mind. And I was like, all right, where were you here? Da-da-da-da. I said I was doing this for you and all this stuff. But through that, it allowed me to, I don't think I would have ever found like my passion right now in photography if I never broke my wrist. And, when in talking to like Chris and Teddy, a lot of opportunities that they've said, hey, you've only been doing this for like, it's about to be a year now.
Yes.
A year and a couple months. And it's like, man, you are doing things that we've been shooting for years. And you're opening up avenues for all of us. And it's like, you've done things that, has allowed in this a small amount of time that we've never even thought of. And it's like, man, just putting that into perspective. I forgot the initial question.
Who do you want to become?
Who do I want to become? But yeah, that putting that into perspective, I think one of the things that I really want to do is I want to have like a youth center named after me. And I kind of want it to be what we spoke about, like, for people to have strong male role models in their life, and even female, because I, not that I'm just so out of touch, but seeing how people operated around me who didn't have the influences that I had, it's like, man, if just one person cared enough,
right?
Like how would like our community change? In the place I live, in Mattapan, there's a lot of gentrification going on. A lot of people who can't afford it, a lot of underprivileged people are just getting kicked out because people who have wealth are coming in. How do you, not a lot of people, not a lot of like black people, a lot of people are getting hip to it now, but like, knowing about investments, knowing about how to, get your assets right, knowing about how to move on, knowing about how to, when you get wealth, not spend it immediately. So when your kids come, they're starting from ground zero all the time.
Yeah.
And that's how we haven't been able to move on for so long, because, every generation that comes, they're starting from the bottom.
Ground zero, right? We got to continue to build up from where we were. Just keep building from that.
It starts about having a solid foundation that was before you, though.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're starting on, it's rare for people to come in and have a rocky foundation. It's like, all right, I'm going off to the moon. And it's like, props to them, because they have a level of strength that many people in this world, strong foundation or not, they were able to come from like the bottom and work their way up. And that's commendable.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Absolutely.
Why did I know you were going to do that?
That's admirable.
Jay, you have any questions? Any last question? We'll get back to him.
Right.
You have anything?
Gotta let him think. So where can people find you? Because you did mention something about photography, and I know people need photographers all the time.
Yes.
So where can we find your work? Where can we find you?
It is wedding season coming up. It's a good time. A lot of graduation pictures.
Hello.
So I have an Instagram. I'm thinking about moving to a website.
Okay.
So that's in the works. But my Instagram is Chay, CHAYG_flicks on Instagram.
Awesome.
Okay.
Chay G Flicks.
Chay G_flicks.
_flicks.
That's important.
Okay.
But if you look up Chay G, that would be the first one that pops up on my Instagram page. My phone number is there, and my business email is there as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. If you guys need a good photographer, Chay has a great eye.
Hey,
I've
check my
seen
catalog.
it. It's
You
really
saw
good.
all the posts there.
It's
All the
really
confidence is
good.
real.
Oh no,
It's there.
he's
Come on.
good.
It's there. It's there.
He's been taught from some amazing photographers as
Oh
well.
yeah, Godfrey Imaging that has done all of our work on the
Teddy
site
Creates.
and everything.
Teddy Creates,
Teddy
yes,
Creates,
also.
shout out.
Man,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Chay G
Underscore
flicks is the next one up.
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
Next one up.
Yes, sir.
I love it. We'll be looking forward for your website too. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Getting
that's the
website
plan.
done is, it's so good.
Yeah.
Because that's your store now. People know where to find you and where to get
Yeah.
what you have. So that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
All
Most
right, do you
welcome.
have a question for us on our way out?
Do I have a question?
Yes.
I feel like we could talk with you forever.
Do I have a question? Well, kind of throwing the question back on you. Where do you guys see this going in a couple years?
Ooh, I'm going to have Ben do that one first.
Oh man.
He wasn't ready for that one. Look.
No, I wasn't. I've just been so focused lately on just like the getting the wheels going.
Yeah.
And like initially, we were talking like big, longer vision before we really started getting going.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, one is that the podcast is going to continue to grow and thrive and reach people and connect with those that have lived life experiences. Essentially, that Follow Then Lead is about what all that you've talked about. Lending that hand or the information to the generation that's behind you, so they can make better decisions or just have an understanding of themselves or the world or each other, right? Have better relationships, at least between men, right? Because at every point in our lives, we're going to learn something new, and we never made it. There's never a point in life where we made it. And so if I've never been married and I can talk to someone that's been married now, a married guy can talk to someone now who's had a child because he hasn't had a child before.
Yeah.
So when it continues, the man that has worked for 40 years and getting ready to retire, that's a whole new world. So having these conversations to pour back into one another, to youth, having conversations with the youth and understand the way they're thinking, what they want to learn and know, and understand about themselves, about life in the world. So the podcast being that avenue, and then eventually, Chris, our other teammate and brother, he does life coaching.
Yeah.
And so getting into mentorship, life coaching, and going into schools, having programs that in churches, schools, after school programs that are like rites of passages or just mentorship programs, or bringing in conversations of men that have different life experiences and kind of showing them that they have opportunities of guys that, myself being a scientist, yourself a photographer, someone else that's a musician, and just kind of talking to them about what's available to them in the world. Because even in our public schools, you don't really have that much.
Right.
Like I know I didn't have it. I didn't know that I could be a scientist. Usually what you hear is doctor, lawyer, basketball, football player, like basic stuff. But there's so many different things in the world that you can do and become. And even if you don't love your job can fund the things that you love to do.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what's going on. So all of that and more, to not talk forever, is the vision for the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
I'm here to support. So
I'm
I'm here.
No, she's not.
I think it's so much bigger than us, and I'm
Yeah.
very excited to see what God does with it. Even the plans that we've talked about before, I really believe God has even bigger plans than that. And I think as long as we continue to say yes to the call, it will just work accordingly. And so for me, I see just the impact that we're going to have on whoever walks through the doors, who we have conversation with, who we partner with, to just do the good work that God calls us to do here, which is to love one another, to hold each other accountable, and to continue to glorify Him.
Yeah. And on top of that, what you mentioned before about your sister, your father's impact on you and your sister, like the same thing here being men impacting, women, because our role, right, in the order of things, we have a powerful impact on women as well. So having conversations with women, understanding their life experiences with men, and having those true, honest conversations so that people can hear how, maybe some of the negative and positive that men has actually inflicted on women. So then we can train, men to be better men, but then also have, Stacy here who mentors young women, then also having male influence there, not in what she's doing, but around, that they can have healthy relationships like at the church. To ensure that the male influence is there, having positive impacts on the young women there. So it's the same cycle of, kind of recreating the order, in the world we live in.
The Bible talks about iron sharpening iron.
Yeah.
So
Always.
you need people to, if you're just talking to yourself 24/7, then
you're going to drive yourself nuts. You got to talk to people.
Yeah, 100%.
You got to talk to people.
Especially smart people like you.
Appreciate it.
But I think it's like the Malachi verse, right? That, the God will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children and the children back to the fathers, so that we can have healthy communities and families again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Chay, for joining us today.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy you came. So happy. This was an amazing conversation. Again, this is the Follow Then Lead Squad. Thank you for joining us today. Peace.
Peace. Thank you for listening to the Follow Then Lead podcast. You can reach us on social media at
The email is followthenleadinc@gmail.com, Instagram, Follow Then Lead Podcast, and our Twitter is Follow Then Lead P. Until next time,
take it easy.
Word.